would like to talk to you, and here comes the point. Please have some grace with me. When I submitted the talk, this thing was hot. And we know in AI, you know, the cadence of stuff changes and new things appearing is much more quicker than we ever experienced this. So you probably look at this like, well, Ralph Loop, is this not so 19 whatever? No, you will see why not. So today I would like to talk about how to Ralph Loop, or other persons would name it like how to burn tokens. And this is, again, with all the things we learned now in AI, this is a big topic. Burning tokens, using tokens. I had a short window of trying Fable 5, and I could see I have a 20 times max subscription, and I could see the bar like this, like going away. That was amazing. The work was nice, but running Fable 5 in ultra high was really nice, because they spin agents and agents and agents. So, how to burn tokens. Just a disclaimer, there will be a lot of Disney stuff going on. So just if somebody is affiliated with Disney or knows somebody who wants to make extra money by snitching me out, so please, Disney, don't sue me, because this is actually the only lawyer I can afford. Asking here ChatGPT like, hey, what's going on? So please have some grace with me. Okay, so the Ralph Loop, and how clickbaity everybody is, like, hey, how autonomous AI loops built my serverless SaaS while I slept, and I want to show you this. Okay, shortly to myself, I'm Engin Diri, I'm working as a solutions architect at Pulumi, and fun fact is I also use AI for a lot of stuff, and I also asked AI like, hey, what should I do? Because everybody is on this stage like, okay, well, how is the future? What's going on? So I asked also AI, in this case Claude, I asked like, hey, what's a good plan B for me? And that was the answer. He said, trades, electricians, plumber, HVAC, hard to automate, always in demand, good income. And that's true if you remember last week or the couple of days we had here in Europe. I think installing air cons and all this stuff would be much more a better position for me. But yeah, as you see, that's what AI is suggesting me. Okay, the Ralph Loop. You probably saw a lot of hype around the Ralph Loop. So there were a lot of videos, a lot of blog posts back in the day when the Ralph Loop, it was around last year, June, July, this time, when the Ralph Loop was really exploding. Everybody created content around the Ralph Loop, tried to understand what the Ralph Loop is giving us, and actually, what's the talk? Why are people so raving about the Ralph Loop? So it went completely viral. This is something for sure. So probably you also heard about this one. So. But now we are 2026, and you're like, Engin, you're not going to use a lame-ass slide you did last year about the topics. So I'm like, no, because if you see it, the name Ralph Loop, and you follow the last couple of weeks, maybe months around this, it should ring a bell. So there is something around this whole subject of loops. And here is a famous tweet, I think it was beginning of last month or this month, where our one and only savior Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw, who's now working for OpenAI, he gave the monthly reminder that you should not be prompting coding agents anymore. You should be designing loops that prompts your agents. So very important, and I really love that this tweet and the whole movement around loop engineering plays so well into my talk. I'm like, wow, that was like, I could not ask for this moment. And then we come also to situations, so everybody is talking now about writing loops. That's the big thing now. So we have Boris, the creator of Claude Code, who also says, I don't prompt Claude anymore. I have loops running that prompt Claude. My job is now to write loops. So that's the person. And then also Jeffrey, we're going to discover a little bit more about him here in this talk, also says everything is a Ralph loop. So to distill this down, we can say, okay, we are not anymore in the position where we write prompts. We are now in the positions we say, okay, we need to work on the loop that prompts the agent, and the agent can then decide when it's done. just in the spirit of the discussions of the last months and also here with Boris and Peter. Okay, and then we come back to the Ralph loop. So where is the place now for the Ralph loop? And yeah, the Ralph loop is the simplest loop we have, and the rest is now part of the loop engineering. I love how the words, everything becomes so scientifically, we have now loop engineering. Who could thought about this? So this is the type, and I'm also guilty of still doing this, and a lot of people doing this. It doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong or something like this, but this should be a pattern we may have all experienced. So we are the loop. So we prompt, the agent works, the agent stops, we review it, we prompt again, and so on, and so on, and so on. So we are in this mode in discussing, working. So we can see clearly, and because we are all engineers and nobody wants to be a bottleneck, we discover quickly in this case that we are the bottleneck now, because every time we're working and going on it. And the ideal world is now to say, okay, how we can break out of this loop, how we can set up now the whole loop and loop engineering. So we can see now in an improved world where the loop is now part of the harness, or having some legs in the harness between harness, LLM ops. We have now also the loop ops or the loop engineering here inside. We say, okay, we set the goal. The agent works, there's some kind of evaluating going on, like, hey, I'm done or I'm not done? If I'm not done, the agent goes ahead and makes the next turn or works on it and keeps on here in this loop until some check works. Let me say like this without spoiling the rest of the talk. And then it says, okay, I'm done and I met the goal now. And then we can see now in this new loop engineered enhanced world, in the way we are working now with the agent, is we step out now. We are not the bottleneck anymore. So the loop itself runs until it meets some condition, and then we are fine to go. Okay, just as a refresher, as a short introduction for the loop engineering part, because again, this is relatively fresh and you will see now a lot of content. I should put the content slide also around loop engineering, because here comes the point. We are now in an area where everybody tries out. We are very experimental. We try things, and some things are working, some things are not working. So we have to see how the whole loop engineering and the frameworks goes on. If you're using something like Codex or Goal, you already discovered Codex and Claude. You already discovered like /goal and /loop are already some building blocks inside where you can really think about now creating scheduled /loops. I don't know why they called it loop. So /loop to schedule something like, hey, every morning go through my Git repository for my open PRs, and then /goal part of the prompt to say, fix everything until it's done. And I don't have any open PRs, and as a final step, message me the stuff. So you see some of the frontier model coding harnesses or frontier model labs, their coding harnesses already provide first-class citizen for this. Okay. And yes, of course, also created some content around this because, oh yeah, YOLO, why not? So I had back in the days also 2 articles where we discovered the Ralph loop, but here comes the interesting part, because I'm working for an infrastructure tool company. It was very interesting to see, okay, how we can take the Ralph loop, which was originally designed for application logic, for backend, front-end stuff, or at least that's what the person who's created it all the time used it, and a lot of people in this space also, how we can transfer this now into an infrastructure world, how we can mix both together and say, okay, I have a whole specification, and I not only want that the business logic is Ralph loop, but I also want that the underlying infrastructure is also part of the Ralph loop, and how we can close here the feedback loop. I tweeted about this one, and as you can see, it got retweeted also from the builder, from the creator, the Jeffrey, and he made this funny thing. Ralph can do the job of a DevOps engineer also. So that was really, really cool. Okay, so what's the problem the Ralph loop is trying to solve here? And this is something you should also discover now with the usage or the daily usage of agents. it's all about the AI babysitting. So what do we mean here with AI babysitting? So we want, again, that a coding agent is completely autonomous. So I don't want to sit down and here comes the point, having babysit here the long session, or sitting in front of the coding agent and interacting with the system. So we see, for example, I know with the 1 million context windows, this is maybe not that imminent as it was before with a 200 or 400K context window, but still a long session compacts your context and a lot of critical details get lost. Context windows fills up, so with the quality, we all know about this graph where the AI is in a dumb area and we don't want that AI is working in the area where it's explicitly stupid. We always want it in the area where AI is cleverly working. And then again, the babysitting, you saw the loop, when I become the loop and not being the person taking care of designing it, I have to confirm, I have to check. And a lot of people had also this cognitive overload of having multiple sessions run. So for example, my company, when I talked with the engineers, they had this grunt voice connected to the Claude hook. I don't know if you know this project, where a Warcraft 3 orc is giving sounds when it's finished. So you get, yes, Captain, work, 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 you know, this kind of stuff. And then you have to, I forgot the name of this tool, but it was really fun and it was so much in our Slack, in our company Slack. This was really hyped much, but it shows you that you lost a lot of track, you know, when something is finished, you want to go back because, at this time, we are babysitting our sessions and wait that the system comes back. And then we come also that a lot of, and this is a problem we still have, a lot of company closed now, a lot of bounty hunting programs closed also now because here we got a lot of AI generated PRs. And people just, we have a high quantity without quality. I think Peter created also a dedicated triaging tool around his OpenClaw product, where a lot of the things get also triaged and closed down. So this is really, with the rise of AI, we have also the rise of slop PRs and all the things. And then comes also another thing is like, hey, the agent thinks this done, but never verifies his own work. I mean, this is really some pain points I still encounter sometimes today, that the system, we have the hallucination problem or, you know, tweaking. It's so unlimited situations I encountered working where the agent's like, I'm done. I'm like, no, you're not done. And he's like, no, I'm done. Yeah, like, but it's not working. You never told me about this. Really, I have this kind of dialogue. I'm working remote alone. You know, this is the person I'm talking 8 hours with. And sometimes it's so weird how AI is going to gaslight you and try to convince you that, hey, it's done. And then when you remind the system, like, no, did you made a fact check and whatever, he's like, yeah, you're right. Like, okay, why you didn't fact check before? So being sure, especially here comes the point, if we run it unsupervised, that we are sure that the agent is done when it's done and not done when it thinks it's done. Okay, so should sound familiar. Some words around the creator, because this person is really, really interesting. So again, Geoffrey Huntley, he's an Australian developer, open source veteran. He's currently on a lot of conferences around, so you have the chance to meet him. I think currently, and I don't want to sound like a stalker, but currently he's on the AI Developer Conference, the World Fair in San Francisco, and mingling with the people in the space. So he published it in July 14, the Ralph Loop. He created a Gen C slang compiler called Curse, so that was very, very interesting. He discovered, a bash loop with a fresh context produces extraordinary result. Again, put it into the time frame. I know last year doesn't sound that old, but you know, in AI, things go very quickly. So he discovered back in the days that having a fresh context every time, we talked about getting AI dump in the zone where your context fills up, is not something you would like to be. And then he was also a little bit surprised when he discovered this, that he discovered something very elementary here, very impactful. And we are back again to loop engineering, you see. So the things make really, really sense. And I think one of the biggest Ralph loop things was the slop fork from Cloudflare when they slop forked Next.js and made something around this. They used the Ralph loop also to run it over the weekend and burn a lot of tokens. Okay, so why Ralph Wiggum? He was like, okay, Ralph is a lovable but stubborn person, you know. And also, this is something people in the States committed to me. The word Ralph was a boomer, whatever phrase for vomiting. So it makes sense now. The loop Ralph's code until the test passed. So yeah, it makes sense. And somebody in the States committed this. Yeah, we used this back in the days. Okay, so. And then again, we can say in the purest form, a Ralph is a bash loop. So we come back again. Okay, some words of the theory. So generating code is now very cheap. We all know this now. 2026, you have to be very delusional if you think that writing code and so on matters. I know hand rolling. I love this also. We don't need to talk about how satisfying it was to create code. But if you go around upper in the hierarchy or something like this, the generation of code is not anymore something people value. And nowadays, if you insist too much on I want to hand roll it, you are even part of a problem and not of a solution. So, but here again, the hard thing is now to ensure that Ralph generate the right thing. So, okay, what is some of the elements the Ralph loop is using? It uses Git as memory. Again, some of the concepts are now much more interesting and companies working around this. We got the stuff around Beat and so on, where they put a lot of things into the Git memory, the whole project management stuff. So you see people try out stuff. One task per iteration, never overload the context. Most importantly, a fresh context per loop. That's what we do also when you now run in Ultra code in Claude. It spins up a lot of sub-agents, which can then spin up again agents, but each of the agents has their own context. So very important. And for me, that's the most important thing. And if you create your own harness now in the future and you want to elevate a little bit the hooks which the coding agents bring you, putting back pressure via tests is very, very important. And back in the day, sounds really stupid, but back in the day, he discovered that back pressure via tests is elementary to trigger your agent. And then, of course, human on the loop. And again, supervise, don't micromanage. And you saw I added the slides with the loop engineering afterwards. So, and this is still from the slides back in the days, and it was also there very important to not, he called it, I mean, it was called micromanaging, but now we say, I don't want to be the loop at all. I want to just build the stuff. Okay. So, and that's what I added on this. So nearly a year later, it got a bigger name. So loop engineering. Ralph engineering could also be nice. And yeah, Ralph was the simplest version. Okay, the 3 phases of Ralph. We got our defined specification. So Ralph is very important that you define your specification. You have a PRD, and then you create your acceptance criteria, planning prompt. You set the goal as a human, and the constraints and any validation commands. Then you head over in the plan mode where where AI, again, let AI do the stuff, implements here the implementation plan. You review it, you say, hey, that's nice, let's go. No code at this point, and then we head over in the build mode and we see while do cat prompt build Claude Code done. And yes, you can do it, how do you say this, with skip permission and all the stuff. So here we can see every time we get for every new task, we get a fresh context. State lives on the disk, and test stop condition provide the necessary back pressure. And of course, things which are cool has also some ecosystems as a result. So let me see that I'm not clicking too much on it. Okay, here we are. So we got the awesome Ralph list, which was a curated list. We have got the Ralphie CLI, which I'm going to use, and a lot of other stuff. So you can really build this also. There was also some plugin from Claude Code back in the day. It was not that good because it didn't provide a fresh context. So it cosplayed as a Ralph, but was not really a Ralph because you had one of the important things not in place, and that was having the fresh context. Okay, so I would like to show you now the bash loop versus Ralphie. this tool. So here we have again the bash loop here with the while truth, and then you can do call Claude. But I liked very much the Ralphie tool, and this provided some little config where I could say, hey, these are the commands you need to run. These are the capabilities, for example, in case the browser, because it's very important to not generate back pressure on the code side, but also use back pressure by testing, you know, with Puppeteer, Playwright, or here the agent browser from Vercel, that the system also sees stuff in runtime and interacts and can then also feed it back into the loop. And then you can define some rules here to say, hey, after Pulumi up, verify the endpoints with the agent browser. And then you're going to run this. You say just Ralphie --prod. There are a lot of more configuration properties. You can say which LLM to use and all this stuff, but this is not necessary now in this case. Okay, so let me show you now. This, I ran it yesterday freshly, and I will not going to run this now because, as you can guess, it takes a lot of time. But this was the run I did yesterday again. I gave him the same prompt. I say, hey, and let me show you this also. Where are you? Where are you? Here you are here, and then we have the demo. So this was the PRD in its purest form. Let me open this, just a second. Why are you using cursor? Okay, close this. Where are you? Open with. I swear, when people watch me, I get really, you know, I sit at home and like a god, you know, programming the shit. And the moment people watch me, I'm like, and people are like, yeah, bro, what are you talking? Okay, okay, so let this up. So you see, this is the PRD I create. I mean, I'm not created it. I gave the instructions to the AI to create me this with the, you know, talking a little bit with me the way you would create this stuff, defining the stuff, giving some acceptance criterias. But most importantly is, let's go down, defining the tables, blah 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 blah. You see, nobody. But here, this is the most important part: the task, and this is all the tasks. It goes through as part of the Ralph loop and ticks the box when it's finished. And here we have also the nice situation. When it's not finished or something breaks because you run out of token or whatever, you need to change the account, because we also know in 26 you have to have multiple accounts, then it just continues with it, because you use Git as memory. It can pick up there and see, hey, what did I already worked on and what I have to continue. So you see. And how does it look like when the Ralph loop really went through? You see the demo 4 is everything created. So let me open now the PRD again. And hopefully you should, yeah, you see it automatically ticked the stuff because it worked on the stuff. I'm fine on this also. And how does it look like if you run it? As you can see, I just run it here, the demo sh. I provided via Pulumi ESC some secrets that I don't have to, that it uses all the time OIDC token for the AWS deployment, but this is something. And here you can see which things it went through. And again, it can be much, much bigger. I mean, this one took, what, 170 minutes to finish because it's a very small scope. If I would go really crazy, I could create much, much more. I could be fine granular and say, let me see the time, 4 minutes, to run it on a specific feature only, so you're completely free. How does it look like? That's the application I created here. So you see, it's a URL shortener, very basic. I can go in the dashboard. I see the links already. I have some analytics. I have a documentation. That's all what I asked. And most importantly, I can get some stats also out. You see, that's the one I just created here, going to the Pulumi block. And here in Pulumi, we see also the run going through and the data. So that's all. You could use Terraform, whatever. Okay, so let's head back to the enter full screen. Okay, so that was the run. So 18 tasks, it took 1 hour and 58 minutes, unattended, really unattended. I just doom scrolled, watched TikTok while it ran. That was really good. So you have to explain one day to your kids, you know, why you get this money while you doom scroll. My wife also sometimes at home, she opens the door, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm working. So it is as it is. Okay, I showed you the finished SaaS, but here comes the point. When I did run it, the last time it created this UI. Yes, I could have a system design document to be sure, but it was funny to see that LLMB, in this case Opus 4.8, because they took away Fable 5 from us, that how it looks like if you run it now in Opus 4.8. Back in the day it was 4.7, 4.5 or whatever. It looked like this, but same functionality because the functions, the loop builds the functions, the model picked the look because slash frontend designer, yeah, this orange stuff was so on vogue back in the days. And yeah, I just showed you this, and just as a reference, that's how it looked like back when I created this initially. Again, you know, some kind of dashboard, but here, you know, this kind. What's just missing is the grid, you know, this blueprint grid, because it was also very popular. Not the slop purple stuff they created, but you know, when you run the front-end designer, it always spits out this kind of stuff. So you become a connoisseur of LLM-generated front ends. Okay. Best practices and pitfalls, because no talk is complete with some things you can take with you. I know Ralph Loop is maybe not that actual anymore, but focus on loop engineering. But some of the practices are still applying if you're going to maybe create your own loop harness as part of your work in your company. So Git as memory. That's still something valid. People maybe argue and say use Notion or use something else. Yeah, you choose, man. One task per iteration, small focus. That's that's very good. Fresh context. Even if we have 1 million, try to be, you know, just start a fresh context, because all the review agent stuff and so on, they also work on a fresh context. We have even the case where you could use multiple LLMs from different vendors to avoid any bias and say, I'm going to use Codex for this one, Codex for reviewing, whatever, and generate it via Anthropic LLMs because I want to eliminate this. Clear acceptance criteria, that's always useful. That was even useful back in the days when we do waterfall development. Test-driven back pressure, yeah, that's also something. I'm not a test-driven person, so it hurts me, but now with AI I let the tests write. Self-verify, very important. Agent browser could be a thing. There are also now new browser systems which are designed specially for agentic usage. Don't use something where MCP is written at the end. MCP is dead. The PRD quality determines your loop quality. That's something for sure. Crap in, crap out. So don't reuse the session. Don't scope creep into operations. Don't skip test gates. Yeah, so like, hey, that's okay, that's fine. Run without some human review checkpoints. And yeah, that was something which really hurts in some of the system. For example, the Playwright one, when it goes through the DOM was horrible. So Agent Browser was very clever to not go somewhere both DOM trees in HTML. But yeah, don't do this kind of stuff. Okay. Key takeaways. Oh man, why I put key takeaways? I worked before for the Schwarzgruppe, and this is the way you did it. You know what I mean? Keep the management summary slide and all the things. So ignore this. So yeah, do please don't do this thing. Okay. And yeah, thank you. That's it. I'm sure you don't have any questions. If you have questions, open Claude and ask Claude. So hey, Engin explain something about loop engineering. What is he talking? What did he smoke? And then he will going to explain you what's going to. No, but honestly, if anybody has a question, yeah, feel free. Yeah, there's the trend. So people discovered also as part of the things that modern LLMs, modern specifically trained models for agentic usage are very good with CLIs. So the mixture of skills and CLIs was better for the agent to work with than having this MCP where you wrap literally your CLI usage again in a tool, and then you have this huge issue with polluting the context by loading. I know they had progressive discovery also in. So, okay, let me return back a little bit. MCP is not dead. There are specific use cases where it makes sense. So I know that 2 days ago, X, or Twitter as they called them, released also an MCP. So there may be cases where it makes sense, but a lot of companies changed now to CLI. Pulumi, for example, spent a lot of engineering cycles to make the CLI agent-friendly, and there are also companies who dedicated test your CLI for agent usage with evals and all the stuff to be sure that your CLI is perfectly for the agent usage, and a lot of persons went away from MCP, but still there are some cases. I'm sorry, I didn't want to offend anybody with the MCP stuff. Okay. Yes, please. Sorry, I didn't get this. Okay. Yeah, same. I mean, this is some takeaway you should definitely take. Install the GrillMe skill. This is one of the top 5 skills I have always. So the GrillMe, I even throw a lot of things away because they are useless, but the GrillMe one is really, really good. So if you do something and you call /GrillMe, it is brutally honest and gives you some feedback, and then you can feed it back and loop the stuff. Okay. Okay. Yeah, makes. Yeah, but yeah, try out GrillMe and see how things are. I also had the Fool, for example. There was a similar one, the Fool, which also worked a little bit like the GrillMe, trying to challenge what you did and so on. But I think the GrillMe is definitely on a higher level, so I'm use it and I highly recommend to use anybody. Okay, so now I took a little bit too much time. Thanks for coming and enjoy the day, okay?